I'd like to call this meeting of the Lammersville Unified School District Board of Education to order at 7:03. Just a friendly reminder, please turn off or silence your cell phone. We hope this meeting is being recorded. And at this time, I would like to call the principal from Bethany Elementary forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, and it's my pleasure to introduce Kylie DeCruz, who is going to lead us in the pledge today.
Thank you.
Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a presentation from?
We do. All right. We have two things to share with you this evening. The first is we have 4 students here who have been working very hard on our production of The Lion King, which is tomorrow evening, beginning at 6 o'clock. We have with us Michaela Rossetto, our kindergarten teacher. She has a theater background, and she has been instrumental in directing this. Also working on it are Susan Heinrich, our music teacher, and our new 6th grade teacher this year, Kelsey Withoft, is a dancer. So we've got the trifecta, and we're looking really forward to seeing it tomorrow night. So let me introduce Mason Garner.
Hi.
Kylie DeCruz.
Hi.
Michael Patton.
Hi, said I.
Oh, hi. And Nayeli Pleskach.
Hello.
And they are going to give you just a little snippet of what will be happening tomorrow night. They're all very shy. You can tell.
Clearly.
Well, you're presenting to behind, yeah, other direction. There you go.
I can see what's happening.
What?
And they don't have a clue.
Who?
They'll fall in love, and here's the bottom line. All trios down to 2.
Oh.
The sweet caress of twilight. There's magic everywhere. And with all this romantic atmosphere, disasters in the air. Can you feel the love tonight? The peace the evening brings. The world for once in perfect harmony with all its living things. So many things to tell, but how to make her see each truth about my past impossible. She turned away from me, holding back these lines. What I can't decide, but maybe he might keep inside. Can you feel the love tonight?
What'd you shut it off for? Like,
Very nice.
So if you're free tomorrow at 6 o'clock, please join us in the Bethany Multipurpose Room and for what promises to be a fantastic evening.
Will they be giving a performance for the other students in the
They
daytime?
will. Friday morning, we have 2, do you know the times? 8:30 and 9:30. Okay, yes. So you're welcome to join us then as well. We also have with us a group of 8th graders this evening, and I'm going to introduce awesome 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Wentz, who thinks she's just going to wave, but come up. When we had walkthroughs last month, she was setting up and introducing an assignment to our students regarding persuasive messaging, and they were tasked with creating public service announcements. She can talk to you briefly about that, and then we have 2 videos to share with you.
Yeah, so our whole unit was about argument, and we were learning about a bunch of different variety of things that show persuasive messages. So this assignment focused on public service announcements, and basically their purpose and the different elements used in them when creating one. I left it very open. I'm trying to let go, right? And let the creative juices flow, which is hard for a teacher sometimes. So I left it very open. I said, you can make a poster, you can do a skit, you can record something if you like, but you have to use these elements and persuade your audience in less than 2 minutes of a message that's important to us. I gave them about 20 topics that they could choose from, and just said go. And gave them a couple days, and I'm still blown away by what they did. I'm proud. But we do have a couple. Yeah, come on up. There's 2 different groups. Ashley, Day, and Caitlin, who couldn't join us today, did a PSA on suicide prevention, which is wonderful. And Roya and Casey did one on helmet safety, which shocked me, and it's amazing. So
The first one is Ashley and
Ashley.
Day.
I'll step back. You guys can step forward.
There's a house built out of stone, wooden floors, walls, and window sills, tables and chairs warmed by all of the dust. This is a place where I don't feel alone. This is a place where I feel at home.
So clearly, these girls are very talented. We're proud of them. If you have any questions for them, that's what they're here for, is to answer those. Otherwise, that's our presentation.
Wow, nice work.
Those appeared to be professionally made. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Very much.
Literally brought a tear to my eyes, both of them. Wow.
I opened my email that morning at like 4:45 when I get up, of course, and do my work, and I was bawling. I'm like, what is going on here? And so I was just, it was great.
Very impressive.
Very impressive.
Keep up the good work.
Nice work,
Everyone.
ladies. Thank you for having us this evening. We appreciate it always.
Thank you, Principal Wingo, and teachers and students from Bethany Elementary. If you'd like to go home and get your homework done and whatnot, feel free to do so. If you'd like to stay and be entertained by our enthralling meeting, you can do that as well.
You know, the animation in the first one reminded me of that, I don't know, highly regarded video from back in the 80s, the AHA Take On Me video. I know Mr. Harrison's a big fan of AHA, and I saw him reacting to that, and I don't know if it was the emotional message or memories of his youth, but
He's going to claim the fifth on that.
I guess we can go ahead and do roll call, please.
Matthew Balzerini,
absent.
Colin Clements,
Here.
Ann Goodrich,
Here.
Sharon Lampel,
Absent in the moment. Re-entering.
Here. Here.
David Pombo,
Here.
Simran Gunsi.
Here.
Approval and/or corrections to the agenda.
There are none.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Committee reports. District Advisory Committee.
We have nothing to report. We haven't had a meeting, and I don't believe I know when the next meeting is scheduled.
It's going to be announced later tonight.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. District English Language Advisory Committee.
So we had a special meeting on March 29th for the committee to review the LCAP and the EL Master Plan. Unfortunately, the parent turnout was very low, but as usual, a wonderful presentation, very well prepared by staff.
Thank you.
And that's our last meeting for the year.
Thank you. Education Extracurricular Committee.
The next meeting is scheduled for April 24th at 6:30 PM here in the boardroom.
Facilities Committee, our next meeting is scheduled for May 17th here in the boardroom at 6:30. Safety Committee, Trustee Balzerini is absent tonight, so we will move on to the Wellness.
Mr. President, we skipped policy, I think.
Oh, you are correct. I skip around sometimes. Policy Committee.
The Policy Committee, we have several policies on the board agenda tonight that we're going to be recommending be adopted, and we're working on reviewing the second packet of policies.
Thank you. The Wellness Committee, we held our final meeting of the year on April 11th, and among the items discussed were the upcoming character counts trainings to be held on May 31st and June 1st, with a third training sometime after the beginning of the school year, I believe, as yet to be scheduled. We also discussed the hiring of a mental health counselor, suicide prevention, wellness policy and plan, and a recap of the farmers markets that were held on all the K-8 campuses. Governing board reports. Madam Trustee Gunsi?
Thank you. HOSA went to SLSC, which was in Anaheim, and it was their state leadership conference. 10 students won and are going to internationals, and overall, it was a great learning experience for the students who went, and they said they're very grateful for the opportunity. There was academic award night at the high school, which I had the honor to MC for the second year in a row, and it overall went very smoothly. The music department also attended the Forum's Music Festival. Band and orchestra got gold rating, meaning that they were in the top 10%, and choir got silver, overall doing an amazing job as usual. And coming up, we have the speech and debate tournament, state tournament, where there will be over 50 schools coming and overall about 3,500 students. So overall, our extracurriculars have been very busy.
Thank you. Trustee Goodrich.
Well, I was able to attend the academic award night and was very impressed with the number of students who had done so well at the high school, and was proud to help recognize the students who were making some great achievements there. And I also wanted to take a moment to thank Principal Wingo and Principal Sharp and the staff of Bethany and Cuesta schools for graciously hosting my visit at the end of March. I was amazed at the dedication of both the teachers and students who were preparing for the CASP test. And I was extremely impressed by the collaboration between the high school staff and Bethany Elementary as they work to develop a special solution to help some students succeed and start facilitating that. We've talked about it before, about streamlining that transition from the middle school to the high school. Also at Cuesta, the staff demonstrated their adventurous spirit, and they welcomed an insect zoo and some small mammals from the Oakland Zoo, using a creative solution to have an on-site field trip, which they funded through their turkey trot funds. And I'm excited to visit Cuesta again next year and see the transformation of the computer lab into the makerspace. So I had a wonderful visit at both those sites, and I'm looking forward to visiting some more schools coming up soon.
Thank you. Trustee Clements.
Since the last governing board meeting, I took a tour of Hanson Elementary. Thank you very much for facilitating that, Dr. Nicholas. It was great. It was actually my first time on the site, so it was very exciting to see that elementary school. I wanted to point out that I've attempted to do site visits at Cuesta Elementary and Bethany Elementary, but the site administration was unable to accommodate me. And I point this out because I wanted to thank both Mrs. Sharp and Ms. Wingo for saying, we'd love to have you come, but we just can't accommodate you on such short notice, because my schedule at work is such that I really struggle to plan daytime visits. And if I have availability at the last minute, I really want to call and say, hey, can I stop by? But the site administration really needs to feel comfortable enough to say, you know what, we'd really love to, but we've got this going on or that going on. And I really appreciate that kind of working relationship, because otherwise I would probably almost never get to visit a school because I never know what my schedule is going to be like. So thank you very much to this Mrs. Sharp and Mrs. Wingo. I'm also, but I did purchase a principal for a day, and I'm going to get to be a principal for a day scheduled. I'll take a vacation day and schedule it with Mrs. Sharp over at Cuesta. And the rumor is we're going to schedule it on the day of a fire drill, so I get to pull the fire alarm. I'm very excited about that.
Get in trouble for it?
I know, right?
Like you did the last time, right?
I could see the newspaper article now, right? I'm very excited that my wife and we both bought tickets, or we bought 2 tickets for Mountain House High School's play Our Town this Saturday. And I am ecstatic to be able to go and see my first performance in that venue as well. That concludes my report, sir.
Thank you. Trustee Lampel.
Okay, somehow I lost my board report a few minutes ago. So President Pombo and I attended the National School Boards Conference in San Antonio, Texas on April 7th through April 9th. I'd never been to San Antonio before. What a wonderful, beautiful, friendly city. Everyone was so nice. I attended workshops on school safety and emergency preparedness, ensuring LGBT students and staff thrive, engaging with every student succeeding, bringing board governance to a higher level, highly effective boards focusing on the work that matters, and the legal landscape of 2018. It was very interesting seeing what we do from a national perspective, not just a California perspective. And the challenges that we face, they're nationwide. They're not specific to California whatsoever. All of the conversations were exactly really what we hear at CSBA events and at the conference. There was not much of a difference. It's just the laws that are state-specific. I am looking forward to seeing Lion King Jr. tomorrow night. I will be there, and I will be attending Our Town at next week's performance. And I think that's it.
Thank you. My wife and I volunteered at the Winter Percussion competition hosted by Mountain House High School a couple of weeks ago. It was an all-day event, and it was fun showing off our facilities to the visiting schools. We also volunteered at the Winter Percussion Championships at Enox High School the following week, and our Winter Percussion and Winter Guard were both crowned association champions at that event.
Woohoo.
Very proud of that. As was mentioned, Trustee Lampel and I attended the annual NSBA conference in San Antonio, Texas. I attended sessions on board superintendent relations, career technical education, mental health in students, board role in district culture, reducing risks for high school student athletes, and interest-based bargaining, among other sessions. We also attended the general sessions featuring speakers, Hall of Fame quarterback Terry Bradshaw, who was very entertaining, and ABC White House correspondent Ann Compton, who was quite entertaining as well. My wife's son and I donated blood with the Red Cross at Mountain House High School last week, I guess. We also attended the fifth grade elementary spring band, Lammersville Elementary fifth grade spring band and choir concert. We got to see my granddaughter Zoe perform. She's a percussionist like my son. Then this past weekend, Trustee Goodrich and I chaperoned the Mountain House High School Band, Orchestra, and Choir trip to Southern California, where, as our student trustee mentioned, our orchestra and band were both graded gold, which is the top 10% in the country, and our choir was graded silver, which is the top 20% in the country. Very good accomplishments for such a young program. We also attended the Lammersville K4 Spring Music Concert, where my grandsons Matthew and Gavin were performing. And the rest of it I already did, and that concludes the board reports. Receiving of public comments. The board shall give members of the public an opportunity to address the board either before or during the board's consideration of each agenda item. At a time so designated on the agenda, members of the public also may bring before the board matters that are not listed on the agenda of a regular meeting. The board may refer such a matter to the superintendent or designee or take it under advisement, but shall not take action at that time. The board may place the matter on an agenda of a subsequent meeting for discussion or action. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item, and the board shall limit total time for public comment on each item to 20 minutes. Seeing no public comments, I'll move along to consent items for consideration. Governing Board meeting minutes from March 21st, ratification of contracts under $25,000, ratification of 2017-2018 hires, ratification of 2018-2019 hires, ratification of resignations, budget revisions and warrants, updated 2017-2018 fundraisers, ratification of school-sponsored overnight trips, and donation, a mural for Mountain House High School cafeteria stage in the amount of $1,618.34 from the Mountain House High School class of 2018.
I'll move for approval of consent items as presented.
Second.
Would anyone like to remove anything or discuss anything on the list?
I'd like to thank the class of 2018 for that wonderful donation, and I look forward to seeing the mural.
Indeed.
Oh, oh, cool.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Very nice. Look forward to seeing it in person. Having a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent.
Sorry.
So I'd like to welcome the following new employees to our Lammersville family. Deborah Ebert, noon duty supervisor. Sarah Jacob, special education aide. Arthi Jagannathan, special education aide. Srivinia Pulcherla, regular ed instructional aide. Robert Rogers, custodian security 1. Jordan Santos, speech-language pathologist. Jenna Stark, self-contained classroom teacher. Melanie Tango, special education aide. And Diane Valle, special education aide. Those are for this year. And for next year, Catherine Coyle, mental health counselor. So welcome to those new folks.
Welcome. District Administrative Report, Superintendent Report. Dr. Nicholas?
So I just have a very brief announcement. We're putting it out there. President Pombo already hit this, but we wanted to bring a picture with what his words were. So this is the a picture of our Mountain House percussion ensemble and winter guard, the regional championships, who are Central Valley regional champions, and these are pictures from Enoch's High School from the weekend of March 31st. So once again, the word about Lammersville Unified is spreading. We want to thank Denise Rizzo for helping us with that, and the Tracy Press's good coverage of our great kids and our great programs and our great staff. And that's my report.
Thank you. Project Design and Construction Update, Mr. Wesley King.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. So it's been a while since I've been back to talk about the projects that we've been working on. So we've had other things to talk about, so haven't missed out completely. So I just wanted to do an update on the status of what's under construction and what's in design and what's planned for the future. So let's just go through it really quick. Make sure this is working. Yay. So just a real summary of what I'm going to go through on Hanson, just kind of a quick construction status update, and then on the schedule and the budget. On Cordis, I want to review with you the final design, site plan, renderings, have a short little video of it, and then talk a little bit about the schedule and the budget. And then the PDC, same thing as Cordis. And then after that, because I'm not done yet, we've got the district office expansion. Look at some images from that proposed project, and then the same for the warehouse, which is at the Lammersville school site, and then end with some cool mountain house pictures that you've all experienced in real life by now, but hopefully anyway, and we'll go finish up with that. So let me just start with Hanson. So if you haven't driven by lately, this is what it looks like as of about 2 weeks ago. The building on the right in this picture with the blue now has the kind of gray and white checkerboard material that you see in the foreground on it as well. So they're making progress. It's going pretty good. As you know, we've had some schedule challenges that we've managed to make up clearly almost all of. So I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. You can see the form of the building really coming together with the different materials. And then just some more shots of the different pieces and parts. Bathroom pictures are never fun, but that's what the lower left corner is. It's a tile pattern, right? So I have to take a picture of that.
It's like Legos.
It does, yeah. So this is the project schedule for the Hanson project. And you can see we started a while ago, and we're currently at about 80% complete on the administration portion of the first building and the classroom building, which is the first of the two-story buildings in the back. And we're expecting completion on those two is in July of this year, so definitely on track for getting the kids in on time. Unfortunately, I have more kids than we originally anticipated when we started this, and so they've managed to accelerate the classroom building C as well. Not quite as good as the July date that we have for the classroom building B, but I'm showing this on the classroom C and multi-use as moving in September. The contractor is leaning but not committing yet towards August for the classroom building C. So we should definitely have room for the kids as soon as school starts. So that's what everyone has been pushing for, and that's where we're at. So any questions on the schedule before I talk about the budget?
Good job.
I give kudos to Roblin for figuring it out. Budget status, the contingency continues to be healthy. We still have plenty of money left in that. I haven't had to spend a lot. Most of what we have spent has been to accelerate the schedule to get us to this point. So I would say money well spent.
If I can just make sure that, so the classroom, the first classroom wing, which is presently 80% complete, and the July move-in, that will be able to accommodate the kids that we presently have in the district and all the teachers that we're hiring. This will really unbelievable that Roblin's been able to get everything else caught up. But we'll, like we've always said, that the school will open on time and we'll have the buildings that we need.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. All right, so Cordis, the other school in neighborhood D, which is, if you don't remember, to the east of the high school, kind of catty corner to the high school. So I don't know which to point at, but this is Cordis's site. There's the park here, and then the high school is over here, for those of you in the viewing audience. This is the final site plan for Cordis, and so I wanted to point out a couple of things. If you compare this to the last time you saw it, it's a tighter site. The buildings are closer to each other than what you saw before, and that was just, we assumed at the beginning of design that the footprint of the overall site would be the same as Altamont, and it turned out to be longer and not as wide, and so we tightened the buildings up, but the spacing of the buildings is actually the same as what Altamont has. So that's kind of give you a sense of the feeling of the buildings as you walk around. It's like Altamont. We've got the typical Little League size play field for baseball that is in the upper right corner there, similar to what you have at most of your elementary sites. And then we also have in the upper left corner the JV baseball field. And so using that space to, and its proximity to the high school to try to make as much use out of the land as we can. And then in the lower left corner, of course, is the PDC, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Does have the shade structure in the middle, similar to what's just finishing construction at Altamont right now. And then your typical basketball hoops and ball walls and tether balls. And then the circles are the playgrounds. So you got 3 playgrounds there.
That would be with play structures or whatnot in there.
Correct. Yeah, you'll see that in some of the pictures here. So this is just, I'm going to go through a couple of renderings of the overall campus. So you can see this is a view similar. This is from the side where the Little League size play field is, and you see the high school one in the upper right corner. And so that's sort of the front of the school. And then this one is the back of the school, if you will. And then the front, standing there looking right at the front, you can see the entrance. We've talked a lot about the security of the school, and so when those gates are closed that you see there in the foreground, then the people have to go through the office to get into the campus.
Quick question. How big of a road is that in the back that juts up against the playground?
Oh, let me go back one more. So you're talking about the road at the bottom
On the
of
bottom,
the
yeah.
screen?
Yeah.
That is the neighborhood road. That's the regular road.
So it's not a very busy road?
No. No, it's just like you have it around all of your
Yeah.
elementary campuses, yep. So this is the primary view of the multi-use building, and then the admin building is on the left. And then you see in the lower left corner is just a view from inside the courtyard.
Yeah.
And again, this is the back side. Again, facing those two buildings that you see are two of the classroom buildings. There's 4 classroom buildings. You can see the play structure in the foreground. And then on the left side is the entrance and the play structures on the far left.
Can I see an aerial view specifically of the junior varsity baseball field?
Go back.
So in that picture, it looks like the baseball field encroaches just a little bit into the soccer field. Is that just because it's a drawing, or will that really be the way it is, where they're playing soccer and inbounds is the infield?
The field in the upper left corner?
Upper left corner, yeah.
Yeah, so that's primarily set up for the JV baseball.
Understood.
Yeah, and so it does encroach a little bit.
It does encroach a little bit? Okay, I just wanted to check.
And while we're talking about that, if you go to the left of that, that's the park. And with the support of the CSD and IHP, or not, yeah, IHP and Mountain House Developers, the JV softball field will be put there. So we'll be able to accommodate the families and the players from our schools in the same area. That took a long time to get to, but we're very happy to be able to say that.
Yeah, and I didn't point it out before, but that's the area that Kirk is talking about. To the left of that is the softball field. So you have softball, baseball, and then you have a nice parking lot that's joint use with the PDC, so people can park there.
What are the 3 small single buildings?
This?
There's one like,
Yes, that one, and then,
So this is the garbage structure. That's where the garbage goes. The kitchen is right here, so it's near the kitchen.
and
And
the
then this one,
no, over.
the larger one by the,
This one?
on the corner of the PDC.
that is a garbage structure as well for the PDC. And then this one is it's a storage and restroom building to serve the baseball fields.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
So that would be very similar to the building that's under construction at the high school right now at the baseball fields.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think this is where. All right, so here's what it's going to look like.
No, it's not, because we don't have buses.
It's a visiting team.
The visiting team. That was good. That was quick.
That was quick thinking for sure.
That was rather accommodating of the visiting team to put Lammersville Unified on the bus.
Off
They
we
all
go
wanna be
to
us.
Lammersville Unified.
It's a pretty cool animation.
It is.
So again, that's the administration building on the left, and then the main courtyard in the middle between the administration and the multi-use on the right.
Wow.
I think I've told you guys this before, but I'll just mention again, we always put palm trees in our models because they don't block the buildings, but we're not really putting palm trees at this thing.
You said the administration is on the left and the multi-use is on the right. Is
Correct.
that a mirror of
Altamont?
then?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Mirror image of Altamont.
So it's like the,
Yeah, we
Flip.
did that too, because it allowed us to fit the two baseball fields better.
So Wes, how come you couldn't put palm trees on our school? It looks
I'm
kinda
not saying
nice.
we couldn't, I just don't know that you have to.
Okay, I just think it looks nice with that architecture.
I would agree. I think palm trees can be a pretty heavy maintenance commitment.
they can be,
How Jeannie feels about it.
It can be, last
can
time
be-
I did landscape type stuff, it can be expensive too.
yeah,
Yes.
to put mature ones in.
So at the end of this video, it's going to take you to the PDC, the Professional Development Center. So there's our playgrounds that I was talking about.
Is that the end of the ride?
Exactly.
It's very cool.
The
beautiful.
PDC I'll talk about next, but it's tagged on to this video, so I just want to explain. So this is a PDC from the street, and as we can see from the site, the parking is in the back of the PDC. The taller volume is where the main meeting rooms are, and then you've got the IT on one side and the curriculum staff on the other side.
So the main entrance was on that first side?
Now, the main entrance is right here.
On the
what you're
parking
seeing.
lot, okay.
Yeah, from the parking lot side. The doors you see on the street side are just exit doors from the meeting rooms.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
What,
Awesome.
what was the courtyard-looking thing on top in the middle of the PDC?
It's not a courtyard. It's not a second floor. It's a mechanical well, so we hide all the mechanical
Oh.
equipment up there.
So the AC units and that stuff are
Exactly.
inside there,
Yeah,
accessed from inside the building.
correct. Yeah. All right, so this is the project schedule for the Cordis project. So we started back in October of 2017. I was last here in October of 2018. And, well, that doesn't sound right, does it?
I was going to say, how will you hear in the future?
Gotta love typos. So we'll skip that one. The DSA submittal, which you'll notice is next week, right? So we've been busy. We're submitting to the DSA. Unfortunately, everybody's been busy and DSA is overwhelmed. And so we're looking at about 16 weeks to get our drawings out of DSA. And so that's pushed our schedule out later than we originally had wanted, but still we'll be able to get under construction in time for the intended move-in, which is in June of 2020. So, any questions on the schedule? On the budget is tight. It is okay right now, and it's slightly over budget right now because we added that storage building that you asked me what it was. But we're working to put together alternatives so that when we do put it out on the street to get pricing, we have some ideas of what we could pull out if we have to. So we have a plan of attack. So, and we won't be building it right away, so I'm hoping the economy will slow down enough that it doesn't keep driving the pricing up to where it is right now. As I'm sure you know, Colin, the pricing is getting a little ridiculous, so. All right, any questions on Cordis before I go on?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So the Professional Development Center, we sort of mentioned a little bit, the parking lot. This is the building that we were just talking about, this, that has the storage for the athletic fields and then the restrooms in it. The entrances may look a little odd, but there's logic to them about the way we have to connect all the utilities and where that limits where the driveways are. So that's why you kind of have this kind of skewed look to the parking lot. It's the fun part of not getting to control where the developer puts things until you show up on site. So we just adjust. So that's the site. And then this is what the building looks like you saw on the rendering, from the street side on the left and the parking lot side on the right. And then this is a schedule. And so you'll notice on this schedule that this project, although it's on the Cordis site, since it's not tied to your state funding, we bumped the schedule out a little bit. A couple of changes came about that we want to incorporate, and so we just needed a little bit more time to be able to do that. So we're going to anticipate submitting in July at the very latest, probably before then. And then the intention is still to build it at the same time as the rest of the Cordis campus. And then the budget on that is very same as the Cordis site, tight but okay at this point. All right, so this is your home that we're standing in. So this is a district office expansion that's proposed. And so we are currently in the building right here. Under that dot is the boardroom. So on the opposite side of the building from us is where we're proposing to add on. And so this building right here that's darker is the addition. And you'll notice it's just right there. When we get to it, you'll see it's 2 stories. And I want to explain why it's 2 stories. And that is because if you drove into this parking lot today, you probably noticed that it doesn't look exactly like this. And so we basically took the driveway out to make room for the building. And then we took the parking that we have currently along this side of the south side of the site, and we took that away to make the driveway. And then we had to add parking up at the north and a little bit on the future driveway entrances that are currently just reserved spots on the west side of the site. And so I'm happy to say we just got the letter of approval from the county planning department. They bought off on this. So we're good to move forward. And actually the plans were just submitted to the building department at the end of last week. So we're moving ahead full speed, trying to get this under construction as soon as possible. So any questions on the site location or anything before I move on?
Looks like very little parking.
Can you explain the rules around parking and that causing us to have to go up instead of out?
So given the limits of your current property and the square footage of the building, so you have to have a certain number of parking spots, 1 spot per every so many square feet of building. And so the site, when it was originally built, actually had more parking than it needed by the regulations that we have to follow. And so when we added the square footage, we needed more parking, but it wasn't as much more as it might have been had we not already had more than we needed. And so the parking that we currently have, if you go out there in areas like right here, this little 2 spots right there, and then the 2 spots right there, and then this part up here, are primarily replacing what we've lost at the south side. And so we're sort of getting back to neutral. And so we were able to make this argument to the planning department because if you look at the developer's master plan for what goes around you, the buildings aren't going to be next to you on the parking lot side. That's supposed to be parking. So you end up with this kind of sea of parking all behind all the other buildings that might get built out in town center. And so what we're butting up against is parking. So they were allowing us to lose some of the landscaping that we currently have in order to meet our parking requirements. So it's basically just a ratio of building square footage to how many parking stalls that you have.
So I understand that, I understand what the requirements are. Mm-hmm. My question is, we're building the addition so we know how many bodies we're planning on putting in there, and there's enough parking to house the number of bodies that we're planning to put in the district office.
So the answer is yes, but there's also, I guess, the short story is yes. Also know that if you look to the left, which would be the west, if there was a shortage of parking, we negotiated with IHP, and that it would be where we would put additional parking if there was a need until all of this to the left and to the south turns into more parking. There's also a strip of 40 feet. If you look at the bottom of the page or the picture, it's kind of a brown strip there. That also is kind of a dead space. And we tried to also work with the developer who turned us down on utilizing that space to expand our parking ability. So what we agreed to is if there's an issue about parking, in the short term, the mound will be dug out, and we'll have parking. In the long run, as this builds out, there's going to be ample
parking
parking,
stuff,
ample
yeah.
parking,
Okay.
way too much parking.
So the short answer is yes.
Yeah, but the answer is ridiculously complicated because we tried so many different ways to make the parking thing work.
Can't they just leave the mound and we can park on top of it? That would be fun.
For those of you who drive trucks, maybe, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So this is a little light, I apologize, but if you look, this is just showing the overall floor plan. This is your existing building in the big white space, and you can kind of see the shade right there. That's the board dais. That's where Noel's sitting right now. And then the addition is right here, and so the next slide I get into a more enlarged view of that. So on the first floor of the addition, we've got some offices, the stairway up to the second floor, elevator in the middle, a workroom in the middle, and then open office cubicle space, and then a couple more offices down on the bottom, and another stairway up. On the second floor, you've of course got the tops of the stairs, the elevator, restrooms, and then a break room, and then the offices for the superintendent and the associate or assistant superintendents and their support staff. So it's pretty simple floor plans, just cramming a lot of stuff into a little bit of space. Questions on the plans?
So would we have two break rooms, or would we make one of them a copy room and the other one a break room or something like that? A work room and a break room?
Well, there'll be one downstairs. That's the current kitchen, which is also the distribution center and the intake and the welcome to our district room.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if we were
so we'll have two, but we'll also have more space for people to have conference rooms and meeting rooms. That's been a real issue for us where, we've been doing everything in one space. So we think we have enough there. And then it's been well thought out. The copy machines will fit in a space, and they'll be.
Can point to that.
Yeah.
He mentioned that there is a second floor conference room, so you'll have an additional conference room for meetings. And then there's a work room on the second floor, which is where the copiers are, and then the break room on the second floor. And then on the first floor, of course, you've got sort of the combined workroom, break room situation going in the current building. And then we kind of split that out to make that more the break room, and we put in a workroom for the copy machine stuff. So we're trying to give everyone a little bit more elbow room to get their projects and their paperwork and everything.
At present, some days it feels like we're on a bus.
I know. That's what I was thinking, that maybe expanding and not having like that break room is pretty tight when people are working and breaking at the same time.
Yes. So given the limits of the site, this is kind of like the biggest we could go in a cost-effective way.
And just a little history, the site actually straddles two lots, and I think our best understanding is that we were given the land before they drew out what was going to go there. And then when you look at when they drew out the map of how things were going to break down, we literally are straddling two lots. So I think if they could go back and redo it, we probably would have got one big lot and not straddled two. So there's a lot of limitations and challenges with this particular building, remembering that it was a mitigation agreement requirement that we were given land to do a district office. We didn't have a choice where the land was given, and so we pretty much taken what we were given, ran with it, and we keep adjusting as we go.
So this is what it looks like. So you can see the three arches in the middle, on the right middle, just above the car there, are the existing building, and everything to the left of those arches is the addition. And then you can see kind of an aerial view of the addition in the lower right corner. And then this would be from the parking lot side, what it looks like. So ironically, because of the long history of this building and what the CSD made us do back then, the fact that we added a two-story addition to it, it actually is about the same height as what's already here. Mm-hmm. So it works out pretty well. So before I go on to the schedule, any questions on the look and feel of the building?
Thank you.
All right, so the schedule on this, we're hoping to get the building plans out and be under construction as early as June of this year. There's several hurdles to get through to make that happen, but we're working through them diligently right now. The plans are at the building department, so hopefully it won't take them terribly too long to review them. And as I mentioned before, we've made it through the planning department already, so. And we're hoping to have everyone moved in as early as December of this year.
And last thing is no Measure L dollars will be used for this. The primary funding source is the refinancing of a CFD 2002-1, as I explained a couple weeks ago. So no Measure L dollars.
Just a clarification question. Why does this project not have to go through DSA and the professional development does?
So I'll give you two answers.
Okay, and I get to pick?
So the district office is not on a school site, and it's not used by students. So it's like completely black and white. It doesn't have to go to DSA. The Professional Development Center, an argument could be made that because it's used by your staff, it doesn't have to go to DSA. But we made the decision that it should go to DSA because since it's on the Cordis school site, there's might be a chance in the future that you would convert its use and need to put students in it. And so in order to be able to put students in it, we wanted to get it DSA approved from the start.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So, yes, so we chose that option looking to the future that we may need it for a different use than what it's proposed for now.
Correct.
Very well, thank you.
And we want to point out Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller did an in-depth, long-term analysis analyzing multiple school districts throughout the state about what the staffing would look like and our needs for personnel to support our teachers and school site staff. So without his efforts, we would not have had an estimate. But we did the forecast in terms of size, scope, and space for the district needs were born out of that effort. And then also remember that the IT department and the curriculum team will be housed at the PDC. So we believe that based on careful and thoughtful research that we've guessed right in terms of the size, scope, and scale of both the PDC and the district office.
Very good, thank you.
A quick statement on the budget, similar to the other projects. The budget is okay but tight. We're cautiously watching the market. We'll know very soon because this one will be going out hopefully to find a contractor in the near future. So we'll bring you more information as it becomes available. The district warehouse. So over at Lammersville School in the northeast corner of that site, you'll know there's an existing district warehouse, and that is on the left side of this slide. You'll see the existing district warehouse is right here. And so what we're proposing to do is to build a new district warehouse north of that existing one, and then eventually tear down the existing one to create the parking and secure area for the district vehicles. This warehouse would just be very similar in construction to the current one, metal building. Doesn't require DSA approval in this case because it's a district warehouse and it's fenced off and separated from the kids. So this one, you can make the same argument, but in this case, we didn't think that you'd ever want to put a kid into this area, so.
Not too likely to put classrooms in a warehouse.
In a metal building.
Yeah. So this is the floor plan. The floor plan rotated from the site plan, so north is now to the left instead of up. And so it's pretty simple. It's a big open space with some big overhead coiling doors. And then on the right-hand side, you see there's a couple of offices and some restrooms for the facilities staff. So this project is actually out to bid right now in terms of trying to pick a manufacturer for the building itself. Once we pick that, then we will work with that manufacturer to produce the drawings that we have to submit to the county for the building department permit.
Are the building manufacturers that we're looking at companies that also do the erection of the building on site, or would that be a separate?
Most of the manufacturers partner with a general contractor that the manufacturer provides all the parts, and then that general contractor does the site work, the foundation, and assembles the building.
So it's a package
Yeah,
deal?
exactly. See, Colin's looking. I don't want to change the slide till he's done.
No, I'm just,
Okay. All right, this is just a section through the building, just so you can see the area on the top section, you know, the big open warehouse, and then there will be some storage space above that office area as well. So we're trying to make the most use out of the building space that we have available. And then the schedule of that, you know, we're currently April 2018, picking the manufacturer. We'll complete the design drawings and get it into the building department. And then construction will start probably before October for the actual site work. But October is when the building manufacturers tell us, given the other scheduled components, that they could actually get the building built and ready for our site. So hoping to get Jimmy and his crew in there by January of next year. Questions on the warehouse?
actually, yeah, can you go back to that overhead? So the doors swing, I mean, the doors swing out on the bathroom, that's the only, that's what I saw. I couldn't tell what I was seeing that was different than I'm used to seeing, but, yeah.
That
never
is
mind.
true. In that case, we do that to save space inside the bathroom. So if the door swings in, the bathroom gets bigger. So it's, in this case where the bathrooms are going to have limited use, we're comfortable doing that.
Okay.
So. All right. So before I go to Mountain House, I don't have Altamont in here, and I didn't want to ignore Altamont, but I think you're pretty much familiar that the preschool is done. I think I saw an agenda item related to that later on the board agenda. And then the shade structure is supposed to be done by about the middle of next month at the latest. So they'll be pulling out of there, and happy. If you haven't been by, I encourage you to look at it. If you do go, and you'll notice that the concrete that they just poured is colored, and it is the right color. It's just that the concrete that it's up against right now is really dirty from the construction, and once they clean that off, it'll all look the same color. Any questions on Altamont? No. All right, so I just wanted to finish with kind of a high note of the high school. We all know it took a long time to get here, so it's just nice to enjoy the pictures. The library is the one in the lower left corner.
Learning Commons.
Oh, my God.
It's a library, Wes. I'm with you.
I think Ben's going to throw me out. I don't know. Yes, all right. The Learning Commons. Yeah, so I encourage you to go look. I'm sure you all already have. The pictures kind of don't do it justice, even though they look really cool too. But I just wanted to just kind of say thank you for the opportunity.
Somebody playing Pong?
The phone likes it too. So yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
It's a lot of work.
Good
Thank you
information.
very much.
No
That's good.
problem.
The two most recent parts of the three, I haven't seen kids in the CTE building yet, but we did take a tour of it, and just going into the Learning Commons library, I'll just call it both, and the theater, just incredible. Just absolutely overwhelming. Yeah. Awesome work. Thank you.
And while we're talking about the theater, I forgot to mention in my board report, although some of my fellow board members did mention the Play Our Town coming up this weekend and next weekend. I plan to be there on opening night. Can't wait. In fact, I'm still debating whether I'm going to go to every single performance of the play. But I encourage everyone to come out, and it's a fantastic venue, and I'm sure our drama team with with Mr. Hickson are going to put on a very good show, so I wouldn't miss it. Thank you, Wes. Item C, Williams Quarterly Report, January 8, 2018 through April 15th, 2018. Staff report?
There are none.
Thank you. Item D, District Enrollment Report. Dr. Nicholas?
Our current enrollment is 4,978. I can predict that when the beginning of the summer move happens, we will be celebrating crossing the 5,000 student threshold.
Are we going to have a cake at that board meeting with 5,000 on it?
It's always a possibility.
Item E, Lammersville Innovation and Leadership Academy Program Update. Ms. Sherburne. And by the way, that is also known as Lila, I believe.
Good evening, trustees, President Pombo and Superintendent Nicholas. It's my pleasure to be here tonight with you. As you know, the Lila transformation out at Lammersville has been in the making. You've had several updates over time. And we are very happy to be sharing that it is arriving with all of the hard work. We've shared the journey a little bit, and I'm going to have Principal Buzatil come up here in just a second to share the journey. They've gone through the different phases of implementing, experimenting, talking, building, working on how we can bring this all together to create something that is really different. And I really want to come up first before Principal Buzatil so that I could give her a compliment publicly on all of the hard work that she has done, working with her staff, and a compliment to the staff for really embracing this challenge of changing, working with us to be the lead innovator and experimenter of looking at the Infinity Lab and the maker spaces that we've journeyed into and transforming their space into a learning commons of its own at a K-8 site. And they're really fulfilling a leadership role within the district in terms of how we take these next steps to create 21st century classroom spaces. So with that, I will have Principal Buzatil come on up and share the full transformation that is about to begin for the next school year.
Hello, thank you for having me this evening. All right, so I'm really excited, and I told myself when I was driving over here today, Irene, talk slowly, because I get excited and I talk really fast. It's plagued me, well, since my first teaching interview. So really quick, for our phases, phase one was slated to go from January of last year through December of 2017. And so with that, we are complete with that phase. We've replaced all of the desktop computers that were in there. Initially, we had left a bank of 6 computers in there. But since the beginning of the school year, I think it was probably just before the winter break, we did remove the last remaining desktop computers. And then it freed up that space for students to be able to work. And it really did change the vibe of the room. So those were replaced with 6 laptop computers. And so we still have the functionality that we needed with the desktops, but now in a more manageable space to allow the students to have more access to the room. The multimedia nook area is expanding, so we have the green screen up, we have the softbox, lights are up there as well. We have the software purchased through a collaboration with myself, Sean, and the county office, so he's been very helpful. The computer that was purchased as a way of our funding need through our Lammersville School Foundation auction dinner last year has arrived. It's at the high school and waiting to come in. We have another piece of furniture that we're waiting to set that up. And so that's all like the little fun bits that kind of fill in the space and make it functional for kids. One of the things that we added, which was a need, but you kind of underestimate how one small thing is going to kind of change the room. And it was like, I called it a creation cart. It was just like a cart on wheels, and it has all the different materials for the kids to access. And it's just the ease of access has really kind of propelled the kids from phase 1 to phase 2, and then we're going to keep going through. So it's just neat to kind of see the kids in there using all the different components that we've put in there for them to have access to. also, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So phase 2 was slated to go from January through May of 2018. And so if I look at that, we definitely have our Infinity Lab as a symbol. We have our Innovation Night is scheduled for Tuesday, May 8th, in combination with our open house. And so students across grade levels are, yes, they're going to be visiting their classrooms, but that's also going to be set up as an evening of exhibition for parents to come and see students presenting different projects and different elements that they've been learning, not just in their classrooms, but also in the lab as well. So it'll be things from Project Lead the Way to the little Ozobots to the Makey-Makeys to the stop motion. So all of those different things is going to have an opportunity to kind of come to life in that space and for them to kind of be the experts in each of those areas. And then looking at phase 2, we've been working with the IT. The next thing that we have not finalized yet is more of the collaboration with Mountain House High School. James Reed has been very helpful at the high school in regards to the IT components of making sure that the things that we're putting in our beginning stages of multimedia is going to help what's happening there at the high school as well. But we are looking to further that collaboration with that staff to make sure that our program is going to be a stepping stone towards that program. Looking at phase 3, that was slated to be from May 2018 to May 2019, and I'm pleased to say that just like some of the construction, we're a little ahead of schedule. So we have our greenhouses there and waiting, and so hopefully that'll be assembled over the summer and ready for our students to go for the next phase of our garden. The multimedia components, right now, we're waiting, we have the camera and all of those little fun things. We're waiting for a little specialized tripod. It has like this little arm that comes out, which allows the camera to be stabilized and the pictures and things to be taken remotely using the computer, so there's no movement, so stop motion. So for example, you ever watch those things on Facebook where the recipe just magically happens, like the mixing bowl, and all of a sudden they have a cake? So an example of that is what we're looking for the students to be able to create in the lab as one of many different things that we can do in that area. And the 3D printers just arrived over spring break, so Brian came and set them up for our students last week. And so I'm talking to him about training and all of those fun things, and the next thing I know, kids are printing things. And I said, okay, well, here we go. So and that's just a sign of where we're at. So the kids went from being hesitant to kind of come in and play with straws to that is a very expensive piece of equipment, and I'm just going to jump right in there and look at, I've made a little slug, I've made a shark, I've made a boat, and some other odds and ends, and I'm just thinking about, well, clearly you're like 5 steps ahead of us. They're the leaders on the campus, even to us adults. And so that's really just another sign of the shifts that we have happening there at our school. And then looking towards full implementation, we're definitely going through, and we're going to have all of those things happening, and I have no doubt that we will be right where we need to be. All right, and at that point, I realized that I was talking fast again.
We were just as excited as you were.
So what makes Lila different is I've kind of talked about some of those things as I was talking through the first bits there, and we really did want a space that kids can kind of come in and explore and create and be able to question and be able to find results or answers to those questions. And as I've shared before, the kids are kind of even thinking beyond what myself as an adult, the limited, they don't see any boundaries anywhere, so they're able to kind of go through and say, I want to do this, I want to do this. What do you mean we need someone to come and teach us how to do this? I can do it, but just by tinkering and playing. So it's been amazing to see that happening. Definitely ongoing communication with the staff and our parent groups, so whether it's through our Lammersville School Foundation meetings, school site council, or just the informal conversations that happen with parents before and after school and at school events. They've been a very important component of that dialogue about what things they would like to see, what things are they excited about, and like potential next steps for our school. We did have 2 full-day pullouts, one for the primary teachers and one for the 4th through 8th grade teachers. And with that, we were looking at what is the scope and sequence for our school. When a student leaves Lammersville Elementary School at the end of 8th grade, what do we want them to have? And so we did map out a scope and sequence of utilizing whether it's the different Rock and Bot kits, the Makey-Makeys, the Ozobots, the coding, all of those different things that we have available, the Project Lead the Way pathways, all of those different things. What progression do we want students to have, and how do we start to lay those foundational skills by grade level. And so we really did have a fleshing out of all of those different ideas, and we prepared like a scope and sequence that we're anticipating will meet the needs of all of our students, also recognizing that as our program continues to evolve, we're going to make adjustments off of lessons learned and insights that we gain working with the students. So right now, one of the most important things that we've been working on is just in general building the capacity. We recognize that as an elementary school, we're building that cognitive capacity to be able to see things in the world and apply them outside of that. And that right now, they don't have the same boundaries. So we want to make sure that we're giving them the skills for spatial reasoning, negotiation skills and collaborative groups, kind of like how do I take a problem, the critical thinking components of it as well, and use that. And then we also know that we're laying the groundwork. So for example, in the Rock and Block kits, when you first open up the beginning kit that we're using for our kindergarten and first grade students, it looks like a glorified set of Legos. It really does. And when you see the kids first, they're just snapping them together. Much like I would do with like the linking cubes when I was in school. You're going to build a tower, you're going to have a pattern, and then all of a sudden you see that very informal play start to evolve into something that's much more comprehensive and has some of that design aspect to it, and then is evolving into the simple machines. The first time I walked out from my office into the lab and I saw a student that actually had a machine going where it had like moving parts and things, I just ran back into my office and got my camera, and they're looking at me because she was like, always taking pictures of us. But that's just a sign that it's like that evolution that's happening, and it's a combination between providing the students with the opportunities but not forcing it either. And so that's been happening all throughout. And the other thing that we're working on is getting status as a Project Lead the Way Distinguished School. So that's one of the things. As part of our vision as a school, we had to kind of do the status checks on ourselves. Like, hey, these were our goals and our expectations for ourselves. Where are we at? Okay, we kind of let this one slip. We need to make sure that we're acknowledging that and giving energy to that and making sure that we're keeping all the different pieces moving at the same rate. And so Project Lead the Way Distinguished School was one of those goals that we had for ourselves this year. So for those of you that don't know, for the K-5, the Gateway is a minimum of 2 modules per grade level and at least 2 Project Lead the Way teachers with 75% student participation, and we have that in spades. And then for our 6th through 8th grade pathways, for the Gateway, we had to have 50% of students participating, and then, to be able to transition to the high school. And so we will have that as well. So we're definitely going to be ready to be able to apply for that status for next school year. So teachers are very, very excited about that as well. So looking ahead, all throughout the program, whether it is, we have examples of innovation and leadership across areas. And so our drama program is modest and is very, very much like a student created, from the backdrops to the costumes to the signage and all of those different things. It's things that the students are creating. And if it gets to a point where they want to have like the prefabbed type of thing, we can definitely get to that point. But right now, they're really enjoying the exploration and the development of those things themselves. And then in regards to our music program, our music teacher was just talking the other day about the courage that our music students have to have, because our students, when they're participating, especially in our advanced choir and our advanced band is a duo, so it has 2 students, and our advanced choir is 5 students, and so, there's no place to hide, and so that really does take courage and leadership as an example of that, to be able to get there and know that you're the only drummer and you're the only saxophonist, and just the 2 of you are playing. That takes something special from our students, and I've been so proud that they've stayed with it throughout, even though other friends have made different choices. And so that was an example, a shining example for me as leaders on our campus, and so that's been wonderful. In regards to the greenhouse and the garden, the kids are just a crack up. Like, they would be selling chickens after school and the eggs and having, goats in the classroom. But they're definitely moving in that direction. They have like their little business models and their plans, and so they're coming up and sharing those with me. And it's Mrs. Buzatil, when we get the greenhouse up, this is what we're going to need, and these are the plans. And they're very aware of the grant that we received at the beginning of the school year. And I had kept kind of, tease them a little bit, you need to spend your money. And they're like, no, we need to spend it wisely. And so they gave me a breakdown of what they were waiting for, and they wanted to make sure that they had money reserved so that when the greenhouse went up, they were able to implement the vision that they had for their program. And so I thought that was wonderful from them as well. The other thing that's been great with our staff, as Heather had mentioned, is I have a fantastic staff, and they're really cohesive, and as a small school, we're able to pilot things and not have to think, we're able to see the effects pretty immediately. And we've been doing some pilots in the ST Math, the STEM scopes, we had the 3D printers and some of those other pieces coming on. And I was struck last week when we were talking about the 3D printers, and they said, well, are we gonna get training on that to know, what to do with it? And I said, yes. And I said, well, just as a measure, who's interested? Every single one of my teachers raised their hand. And you're talking about people that are in their first year of teaching through teachers that have been there for 20 plus years. And I was just kind of like, that was a proud moment, because not only are students emerging as leaders, but our teachers are really kind of embracing, being innovative and kind of going into the unknown and not necessarily having answers. And they're comfortable with me sometimes saying, this is what we're going, we're so excited about this is the program for our school, and there's some things that we're going to kind of figure out as we go. We have a general direction, but there's some things that we cannot have like set in concrete, because that would, I think, get in the way and hinder our progress. And another thing that really makes us different as a school as well is for those that live directly in Mountain House here, sometimes Lammersville seems really far away. And so sometimes we have some new families that arrive, and they're expecting to go to maybe to Bethany or Cuesta or Wickland, and they find out that there's not currently space at those schools. And so they find out that they're coming to Lammersville. And it is not uncommon for parents to be a little bit apprehensive because it's a long drive. And so they come in a little upset that they're here, and our school looks significantly different, but then they start walking through, and we're talking to them about the program that we have to offer to their son or daughter. And one of the things that struck me as I was taking a new parent, and I was saying, yes, I understand that you moved into this village, and we're so happy to have your student here. And you start to see some of the apprehension kind of drop away as they hear about the program that we're offering. And the icing on the cake and the example of leadership is we walk up to the middle school, up in the middle school playground, and it was for an 8th grade student, and the students immediately came over and welcomed that student. And at that point, the parent turned to me and said, this is going to be a great place for our student. And so that was an example of the innovation that we have there with a program that's evolving, but also the leadership that is coming through and that our students are exemplifying. So that was a proud principal moment for me. So moving on, so if we're looking at 2nd grade, one of the things that I had talked with you about previously is having an identified innovator for each school. Each grade level. So for example, and this is not set in stone again, it might change from year to year. If we're talking about in 2nd grade, we could have, Dr. Seuss. And then of course we're using the adopted curriculum, but we also have our scope and sequence that's going to be underlying that as well. So it might be the Rockenbot Snap Stacks, where they're learning the very first beginnings of design and implementing a design and changing a design, to the Project Lead the Way course offerings. So for Project Lead the Way for 2nd grade, it's properties of matter, so how to keep popsicles and things like that cold, not using a cooler, which I was kind of thinking about that one myself. I was like, I don't know, higher penguins. But it'd be a little bit different for kids. I'm sure they would have different ones. We have form and function, which is like the seed dispersal. So one of the things that our 2nd grade teacher was talking about is using the multimedia lab, is to have kids have videos and explanations of like a documentary of sorts of how does that happen and what does that look like. And then it goes on to, there's some other ideas, but there's also the 2nd grade class this year had come up with the idea of a selfless station. And so they want to develop lessons in this day and age where it's all like about selfies and taking pictures of yourself and being very egocentric, is how could they do positive messages to share with others and kind of have them on display with the Nova Pro and things like that in the office. So that's something for our 2nd grade class. If we're looking in 7th grade, initially the identified innovator was Jack Schmidt, Harrison Schmidt. He was a geologist, an astronaut, a professor, and then later a senator, talking about how do we continue to evolve over time. Like, you don't pick just one destination. You have to continue learning throughout, and like all of those different things. And so one of that would be like the MakerBot 3D printer could be part of that, with the stop motion. So they have lots of different elements where they can kind of come up with different ideas. And with the MakerBots, you can actually go through and print new pieces and design elements for the Rockin' Box. So I thought that was, the kids were all excited about that, and so that opened up a whole nother pathway of ideas. And then with the MakerBots, we also have the Tinkercad, where it's not, right now the kids are currently printing other people's designs, but with the Tinkercad app, you can go ahead, the kids can go in and design their own models and then transfer that to something that can be printed on the printer. So kind of identify a problem, design a solution, and then print the product from that design. So we have lots of cool things going on. One of the things that's having to change is we have a small staff, and so we are thinking about how do we change our elective cycle to meet the needs of all of our students. So right now, we are moving towards adding fifth grade into the elective wheel, to where the fifth grade are getting their Project Lead the Way with Mr. Caballero, but that frees up our fifth grade teacher to offer another Project Lead the Way course. And so that by the time the kids leave us, they will have taken a Project Lead the Way, all three of our Project Lead the Way courses that we offer for the Gateway pathway. So they'll have design and modeling, robotics, and the medical detective. So they'll have all three. And so then that also means that we have to get creative with our scheduling for the music program. And so our music program is currently competing with our electives, which are high interest for the students. So we're looking at changing some of that scheduling around to make adjustments so the kids aren't having to do an either or, they can do both. And so that's what we're looking at for next school year. And I talked to you a little bit throughout about the capstone projects, but we really just want the kids to be able to showcase their key learnings throughout the year tied to their innovators. And so those go across content areas, and incorporate the language arts, the math, any other Project Lead the Way courses, and anything that they're doing in the Infinity Lab as well. And then they'll have the innovation and student showcase nights to be able to kind of put that on display. And then the last thing I wanted to give is just an update of our progress in pictures. And so when I was kind of preparing this presentation, it kind of struck me at a moment to when I thought back to when I first started. Sorry, that's awkward. And everything was not our kids. It was like an idea. And so now these are all our kids, and this is all our stuff. So that's it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Wow. You're doing an awful lot. It's great.
And I think I can speak for the rest of the board that we share your excitement and enthusiasm. I really enjoy seeing this go from an idea to the development, and now we're getting to see it bloom and blossom into a full-blown program, which is really cool.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I shared with the superintendent that President Pombo and I saw at the conference was another version of, it sounds like similar to your Makey-Makeys, it's these trains for the primary kids.
Mm-hmm. Like for the 4 to 7
He
year olds.
got so excited
Yes.
about it because they can see it's primary coding. It's
Yes.
coding for TK and K, and we had a lot of fun with it. We built a train, and it did all the things we told it to.
And you have such a feeling of accomplishment when that happens. It's just like, yes, I did it.
In fact, I shared that information with Principal Busatil, and we may see it there someday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments by the board?
Well, President Pombo does speak for the entire board, but no, I can't leave it at that. I'm very excited about everything that you guys are doing, and thank you so much for all of your energy and drive and vision. I guess that would be vision, energy, and drive. But thank you so much. It's awesome to see.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item F, District Maintenance and Operations Report. Mr. LeGrand. Follow that one, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Any questions? Good.
Guy.
Moving on. So we had since the last board meeting, I would call it a pretty productive spring break. We had a few hiccups to get everything done we wanted to get done, but we did get extra work done at all the school sites while the students were away. We had a training at the high school for the building control systems, energy management systems on April 3rd. There's still some bugs to work out. The vendor's coming back on this Friday. Hopefully those will be resolved on Friday. I had a big meeting with our landscape vendor on Friday the 6th. Sort of become the Jesus meeting, so to speak. We're already seeing a lot of improvement in the last week and a half since the meeting, so I'm pretty happy with that. I attended all the construction meetings today and during spring break. The preschool, the high school, Hanson, you saw from Wes's report, everything's going well. And working on a summer project right now, working with Principal Wingo and her staff on the flooring replacement for Bethany. And then we're doing the field renovations at the 4 school sites. And I have irrigation company come out tomorrow to check the irrigation at Lammersville. And then the security camera project's going very well. Wickland's about 95% done. Bethany's about 90% done. And they're starting on Altamont by Friday. So at the current pace, I expect them to be done at the end of May, first part of June at the very latest. So that'll all be wrapped up, hopefully before summer gets here. And that's my report. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Moving on to 10 action items. Consider approval of 2017-2018 intra-district transfer requests. Staff report?
None.
Move to approve 2017-2018 intra-district transfer requests.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item B, consider approval of 2018-2019 outgoing interdistrict transfer requests. Staff report?
None.
Move to approve 2018-2019 outgoing interdistrict transfer requests.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item C, consider approval of value rental 36-month lease agreement for copier printer management services from Ray Morgan Company. Staff report?
I'm going to defer to our CBO, Alvina. She can talk a little bit about what process she led there.
So we pursued some competitive pricing. Obviously, the copiers cost money to the district, so we wanted to see what we can find as a piggyback price. So we had 5 copier bids that came in, and I'd like to thank Ray Morgan, Mrs. Becker, and Mr. Witt for being patient and coming to our meeting. We are proposing or recommending that we pursue the 36-month contract with Ray Morgan's company.
Questions?
Maybe I'm embarrassed to admit it, but what exactly is a piggyback price?
So what happens is there are obviously other districts.
I noted that it talked about, I can't remember the district name, but so they were going to bid and we just piggybacked off their bid process?
That's exactly it. And we actually pursue that, and several other companies have an opportunity to say, we provided a piggyback bid to this district for this amount and was awarded this contract. So it's kind of a neat way to get the best price.
Cool.
The bigger pool.
Move to approve value rental 36-month lease agreement for copier printer management services from Ray Morgan Company.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item D, consider approval of 2-year lease agreement with Child Development Centers, CDI, for a preschool program at Altamont Elementary, May 1st, 2018 through May 1st, 2020. Staff report?
Inspired by Mrs. Bustatil's presentation, this brings a little twinkle to my eye. Many years ago, we built a school, then we had a cement pad, a concrete pad, and lo and behold, a refinancing of a CFD and a lot of work, and we have a new facility to provide to our Altamont community. It is complete. We're doing final little things, but Mr. Harrison led the negotiation. We found a company that does work over at Wickland. They provide excellent services to our kids. So another promise by this board that we would get it done. And so we got this one done, and I want to thank the team for doing the work, and we're proud to recommend this to bring into preschool at Altamont.
Questions or comments by the board?
I'll move for approval of the 2-year lease agreement with Child Development Centers, CDI, for a preschool program at Altamont Elementary School, May 1st, 2018 through May 1st, 2020. Shouldn't that really be the end of April? The ending date? It's fine the way it is.
Second. Good point, but second. For the end of the school year?
Further discussion?
Aye. Oops. I have a discussion now.
All right, we have one aye. Do we have any others?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move for a roll call vote. No, I'm just kidding.
Motion carries with one absent. Item E, consider approval of 2017-2018 seniority list. Lammersville Teachers Association. Staff report?
Yeah, Mr. Miller, working with LTA President Mr. Herron, went through the process to get all this aligned, and this is our formal agreement on what the list is and for board approval.
Move to approve 2017-2018 seniority list for
Second.
Lammersville Teachers Association.
Second.
Further discussion?
Just good work to keep it up to date. You never want your seniority list to get out of date, because then it's a lot of work to catch up.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item F, consider approval of supplemental level reading books from Scholastic Education for K-3 students not to exceed $96,948.06. Staff report?
So we adopted a new English Language Arts ELD curriculum. What the focus area for the district was strategic support, small group instruction. Our teachers have done an excellent job adjusting to that new way of doing things. The curriculum team, led by Assistant Superintendent Sherburne, has provided the professional development. But one of the things that came to light was, though the adoption had leveled readers, we needed more strata, more levels. And so this will meet that need, and we recommend the board approve that.
Questions or comments by the board?
I'll move for approval of supplemental leveled reading books from Scholastic Education for K-3 students not to exceed $96,948.06.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item G, consider approval of Chromebook Handbook Parent-Student Acknowledgement and Agreement. Staff report?
I'm going to ask Assistant Superintendent Sherburne to come up and cover G and H.
Thank you.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure to be here to share with you this Chromebook handbook that we've put together. The reason that we put this together really is because with the growing use of technology, the 21st century classroom instruction, the one-to-ones are all the way down to second grade thanks to the board's approval at the last board meeting for the upcoming year. So we're really at a point where it was time to formalize these policies, procedures beyond the high school and beyond individual schools and make a unified K-12 handbook with some policies and practices that we could rely on across the district. So we gathered the existing documents. Many of those came from the high school when they started with the one-to-one initiative there. We also gathered some from other districts to look at what they were doing with theirs to make sure that we had the most comprehensive appropriate handbook that we could really have. We updated the language to make sure that it reflected the K-12 continuum instead of just a 9-12 focus, like our original documents had primarily started as. And we consolidated forms that had been developed over little bits and pieces of time so that we'll still have a student user agreement that is governed through our JPA through the county office. And then we also have our own form for the acknowledgement acknowledgement of the policies and procedures that we want to have covered. So this is basically the table of contents that the Chromebook handbook will encompass. I'll point out that you have the rules and procedures and how to use the equipment. All those basics are in there to make sure that they're informed. It also talks about the Google applications or GAF agreement tools that we use so that parents are informed on that. It talks about how they can purchase the optional insurance if they would like to and what the fee rate structure would be for that. It talks about the internet filtering and some of the requirements that we have and how we meet those requirements by law to the parent for making sure that we meet SIPA requirements. And then this is the one consolidated agreement in addition to the county user agreement. So they would have two forms now, and then if they wanted to purchase the optional insurance, that would be a separate process. Any questions?
What's the purpose of the county agreement?
It's the technology use agreement that we have that goes through all of the using the filter and all of the services that we provide.
It's a shame, it's a waste.
So.
But it's out of our control. I think this is a great book. I looked at it and said, wow, we don't have anything like that in my district.
Well, now you have a model.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll move to approve the Chromebook handbook parent student acknowledgement and agreements. Thank you very much, by the way.
You're welcome.
Second.
Further questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item H, consider approval of updated technology sustainability plan.
So, good evening again. I am happy to share with you the update that we have done to this year's technology sustainability plan. Bless you. Much of what you'll see inside of this document has remained the same other than minor updates, but there are some fairly significant changes that we've put into this plan in order to bring it consistent with board policies that are in place, new legal requirements, many of which we were in compliance or in the process, like much of the nation is in process of becoming compliant with. But they weren't all encompassed within this one document. And so in order to fulfill a really comprehensive document that makes sure that we have all those things in place, we have now done that and updated it through the technology sustainability plan. So it's still a 3 or more year plan as required by board policy, and all of the green things there are the things that were inside of the tech plan in terms of goals and intent from the previous tech plan. The two that are in blue at the bottom are what we have added. Provide a safe and legally compliant environment for the use of technology, and that's really relating to all of the laws that are out there now around internet safety and compliance. And then also making sure that we had clearly defined goals and an implementation plan assigned to that for how we are using, which I think we had a lot of those things in place and we're developing them, but they are now documented on paper, and then we can continue to reflect on those, revise those, refer to those as we make decisions. The staffing for the technology, we have not updated to revise beyond last year. We're still recommending that same staffing ratio. For sustaining the infrastructure, we have updated to include all of the new technology infrastructure that we are adding as part of revising the classrooms, adding servers, building new schools or buildings on school sites to make sure that it's accurate. I want to note that we had goals in the old plan from last year that we would replace the voice gateway, the UPSs, and the firewall, and we have completed all of those things this year as outlined. We are sustaining professional development for IT staff, as well as teachers, as well as the non-instructional staff that are employed in our district. Technology is used for many, many purposes. Sometimes we are neglectful in thinking only about students using it or teachers using it, but you have all of our clerical staff, our business staff, our food services staff, and our IT staff that all need to be trained as well. In the technology tools for students, we have maintained pretty much everything in there. Again, I'll mention the second grade one-to-one expansion that we approved at the last board meeting, so that is new, and adding the K1 touchscreen Chromebooks, still at that 3-to-1 ratio, but it will provide that ease of use for the kinder and first graders so that they're meeting a goal of really learning about the world through their use of technology, and they're not having to fumble with how to use the keyboard and all of that when they still don't sometimes know the letter A. For sustaining the technology for classrooms, we've updated that to include the things that have been taken care of underneath the classroom standard, the PLTW technology, and our goal of phasing out the computer labs at the K-8 level. So new is a proposal to install maker spaces at all of our K-8 sites and update our computer labs. We completed Wickland and Lammersville's 21st century classroom updates, as I've reported before, and I will share with you that Bethany and Cuesta, which were slated to be in this summer, are ahead of schedule, and they're already doing initial wiring and things on both of those campuses, so we are underway. So here's the new sections, adding the annual goals and implementation plan there. We have, 5 categories of goals that we've added on there. Teaching and learning, looking at our blended learning academy being documented, and the personalized learning that we believe in as a value for supporting students. The online programs and the types of things that we're making sure we're including, how we intend for staff to use the instructional strategies and lesson design with technology, being very intentional about how we support teachers in learning to do that. We've added a significant step in digital citizenship so that every grade level will now go through their particular scope and sequence of curriculum for digital citizenship, and we have a goal that all schools will be digitally safe certified through Common Sense Media by the end of next school year. And in E, we have students acquiring skills through the grade level scope and sequence. So again, focusing that TK through 2, it's really on using technology to learn things like numbers and letters and sounds and blending and early reading, those kinds of things. In 3rd through 5th grade, they are now learning to use technology to demonstrate their learning in other things, creating PowerPoints and Prezis and the wonderful PSAs that we saw, those kinds of things. And in 6 through 12, using technology to communicate, innovate, research, and becoming college and career ready. As far as our district policies, our last new section, and it was quite comprehensive. We have the user agreements in there and documented. We are pulling out the use of websites at all levels and making sure that we're informing staff so that we're in compliance with the board policies listed there. The application process has been developed through the LUSD Tech Policy Committee about how we will vet websites and make sure that they are compliant with the Children's Internet Protection Act, CIPA, and appropriate. Student privacy compliance laws are all outlined there and referenced and hyperlinked within the document so that anyone can refer to those, and we make sure that we are in compliance with all of those. I will tell you that, just as I mentioned earlier, like much of the nation, we are wrestling with being sure that we are compliant with everything, but well on our way. The data security breach protocol is in development right now, which we need to have because with the increase in use of technology, there are instances where information is there, and we need to make sure that that is protected. And of course, if an accident should ever occur, we want to be prepared to respond. Device management, we have all of our equipment now tracked through Destiny so we can have an accurate representation, which was quite an overhaul to get that all updated. And working on making sure that any kind of technology request, which is much of what happens within this district, involves some piece of technology, from the elevators to the classroom instruction, to the door locks, there's the security cameras, that all those things are coming through a purchase form, and we're making sure that technology is involved, the IT department, in making sure that we have the infrastructure and integration necessary to make things work. And then Alvina will come up and share about the budget.
Thank you. As Mrs. Busita has that passion with her school site, I have the passion of the numbers, the detailed expenditure spreadsheets that are included in the sustainability plan.
So glad you do.
I love it. So obviously, our existing plan already contained the annual expenses that you see before you. Staffing is included. We have all the technology. Heather mentioned the, not just the classroom needing technology, but my department, the human resources department, everything has a cost tied to it. So all of these items are already in the budget. They're already funded through, the local control funding formula, lottery, and grants. And then the second slide, with the infrastructure and the refresh rate, I'm going to be making a suggestion in the future about contributing funds for the future replacement, especially since we have a new high school. A lot of these items are going to need to be replaced in the year 21, 22, of contributing about $200,000 because we're going to be hit with an $800,000 expenditure replacement of these items that are with Project Lead the Way, the computer labs over at the high school, the engineering department. We can do it. We just need to think year by year how much we need to put aside. Any of the long-term infrastructure needs, a lot of it is funded through E-rate funding. There's a 50% discount our district receives based on what we say we need the following fiscal year. Also, with the new schools, we're able to use an original budget with the facility financing when it's tied to being connected to the building. So a lot of that is covered on our future schools. We just have to start thinking about our existing schools and saving funds for future replacement.
Any questions?
Thank you both for seemingly thinking of everything.
Helps to work well.
And I just want to brag about the team here. This is a comprehensive document. Took a long time. And when you look at the first version of it, which was kind of a solo effort with Alvina working with some very nice person in Merced Unified, we've come a long way. So I want to compliment the hard work. It's going to keep us fiscally in a good place so we can keep spending money on neat things.
Yes, thank you very much for all the hard work. On that, I'll move to approve the updated technology sustainability plan.
Well, second.
Further questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item I, consider approval of two-year agreement with ST Math, the supplemental math program for K-5 students, not to exceed $166,610. Staff report?
So I'm actually real excited about this. We have done a great job in education to teach people how to apply their math and get the right answer. There are a few tools out there that teach math concepts. ST Math is one. I was familiar with this from a previous experience in my career. The goal for kindergarten through fifth grade students is to get Gigi the penguin across the page. But in order to do so, you have to solve problems and puzzles in a way that teaches the math concept. We piloted this with a number of our math pilot folks, correct? And so they really like the program, and we'd like to move it forward. The cost is a larger first-year buy-in, and then the cost going out is a much smaller number. I think it's $32,000 or something like that to annually renewal. So this is we would like to bring Gigi the penguin to our district.
Questions or comments by the board?
No, if this is what our staff has looked at, I'm happy to move for approval of a two-year agreement with ST Math for the supplemental math program for K-5 students, not to exceed $166,610.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absence. Welcome, Gigi. Item J, consider approval of the agreement between Lammersville Unified School District and the California School Employees Association, Chapter 873, for the 2017 through 2020 school years. Staff report?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the negotiating team of CBO Alvina Kaiser, Associate Superintendent Thorsten Harrison, and our table lead, Ted Miller. They did a really fine job working with CSEA. Again, very high class, good, positive the kind of negotiations you'd like to see. It didn't last a long time, and we're very happy for this agreement.
And I would like to echo those thanks on behalf of the board. I'm very happy that we're at this point. Questions or comments by the board?
Move to approve agreement between Lammersville Unified School District and California School Employees Association, Chapter Number 873, for 2017 through 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absence. Item K, consider approval of the 2018-2019 instructional calendar. Staff report?
This has been vetted through the association, and we recommend this for approval.
I'll move for approval of the 2018-2019 instructional calendar as presented.
Second.
Further comments or questions by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absence. Item L, consider approval of a 5-year contract with Quaver Music for 6 school sites not to exceed $36,750. Staff report?
Yeah, this is already a popular program. By making this approval, we would be saving money. Teachers want to use it.
I move to approve the 5-year contract with Quaver Music for 6 school sites not to exceed $36,750.
Second.
Questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item M, consider approval of the second reading and adoption of revised board policies and administrative regulations. Staff report?
We just recommend approval. It's been a first read, and this is the second read, so we would like to move forward to the next group.
Move to approve second reading and adoption of revised board policies and administrative regulations.
Second.
Questions or comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item 11, information and discussion items. A, District Safe Schools Plan and School Site Safety Plans for the 2018-2019 school year. Staff report?
I'm going to ask Mr. Harrison to come up and cover A and B.
Good evening, Board President Pombo.
Good evening.
Dr. Nicholas, trustees.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In order to ensure that we have a safe and secure environment at our schools, every year we have a Safe Schools Plan that goes to the board to get approved each year. This year, we also have the school site safety plans that are coming to the board to be approved as well at the same time. This is a part of Education Code 32280 through 32288. The district and site safe schools plans have been reviewed and updated by the Safety Committee. The Safety Committee has looked at all of the site safety plans and has also reviewed the district safety plan. The District Safety Committee consists of teachers, administrators, parents, and teachers. And then a really, really valuable part of that group is first responders. We have first responders that come to our meetings every time we have a safety meeting. Mountain House Fire, our SRD, Joel at the high school, and then obviously Trustee Balzerini is a part of that group as well, and he too is a first responder and an invaluable part of that committee. So that group has worked together to look at the individual school site safety plans as well as a district safety plan, and a part of that process is sharing of plans between the school sites so that we can learn from each other and we can figure out the best way to ensure our schools are safe. Now, that committee has also gone through the process of training. All of our high school principals have received incident command systems training, level 100, as a part of that group. In your packet, you have each individual school site's plan and you have the district plan. I wanted to make sure that I talked to you a little bit quickly about the value of the first responders that have come to our meeting and recognize them while I have this opportunity. At the meetings where we do tabletop trainings and where we talk about individual school site plans, we have first responders looking at our plans, which is fantastic because they have invaluable insight to really help us ensure that our school sites are safe. And I want to make sure that I thank them for their commitment to our kids and to our schools and their time commitment to coming to our meetings and providing input. So that's my presentation. We have plans in your packet.
I just want to let you know, we have a new local commander for the CHP that I met in my role as liaison with the CSD. So I met him at the last CSD meeting. So I gave Superintendent Nicholas his card, so you can probably reach out to him.
Thank you.
He
Another
said he's
member.
been in the area only for like 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I wanted to thank the team for, this is obviously a critically important item, and for the involvement of various personnel, including first responders. It almost seems impertinent to suggest changes to the board, but I do have a few minor comments, if I may. The first one is on page 309 of the PDF. It states, to assist students in safely crossing streets adjacent to or near school sites, the board may employ crossing guards and/or establish a safety patrol at any district school. I think technically that's at the board's direction. The district may, because the board doesn't employ crossing guards, the district does.
Correct. And just to since this is a public forum, it has been the commitment of the board, this and past boards, that moving forward on that is not in the district's best interest.
I understand. I'm just saying that it says the board will employ them if we decide that's important, and that wouldn't be the case. Even if the board said to do it, it would be the district that employs them, not the board.
Yes.
That wording needs to be changed.
Yeah,
Or
like I said, that's
may
very
direct.
minor and semantic, but technically. And then on page 311, we talk about searches of individual students shall be conducted in the presence of at least 2 district employees. In the unlikely event that a student needs to be searched, my question for my fellow board members and district staff is, should the student, and realize I'm speaking in sensitivity to LGBT, should the student, and this is a question, not a statement, should the student have the right to request one sex or another perform the search?
So, and it's not just.
Are you asking me or?
Let me add to it, okay? Because we have discussed this. We were very careful to not violate the Brown Act, that we were the only ones talking to each other about this. And that is that if a student needs to be searched, should there be a reference in the plan that the student is searched by the same gender? Males and males and females and females.
Yes.
And in the case of LGBT, not LGBT, but just the T students, those students who are questioning transgender issues, should they be able to have a choice of the gender of person that searches them? Did I get that right?
You did, much more eloquently than I could, which is why I called you and asked if you hadn't talked to anybody else.
So let me just speak in general. It depends on the situation. If we think a kid has a gun or something, you're right. We operate in loco parentis. We have the authority of the parent. We have more authority than the first responders or the police in certain instances. However, in a typical situation, I think we would be able to be patient and really exercise caution and make sure we're not creating a catastrophic event on trying to figure something out. So I think you have to really think that through, because in certain instances, and I've been on campuses where guns were shot in classrooms, where something really dangerous is going down, rules are different.
Yeah.
But in that case, would the person even need to wait for a second in that what I'll call exigent circumstance, even though I don't necessarily know if that's the appropriate term, would a district employee have to wait for a second one?
Yes. Always.
Still, even with a firearm, okay?
Always. You never search a student by yourself.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure exigent is the correct term because that's the one that came to my mind as well.
Okay.
Can I add one more comment to that?
Sure.
It's usually common practice when it's not an emergency situation that the administration talk to the student, say, do you feel comfortable with me, or would you like somebody else of a common gender searching you? I believe that's common practice at your high school, and it's common practice at all the high schools I've ever worked at. So that is a common practice.
I think that the concern of putting any line in the plan that we would let the student choose the person would put us at risk if there was an emergent situation where we needed to search the student rapidly. So that's why it's not in the site plans.
Fair enough.
Good points.
It's a really gray area sometimes.
Sure, sure. But in a non-emergency situation, a child would be consulted, especially a transgender child or a questioning child.
Of course.
So what I hear is, even though it's not specifically stated, if circumstances allow, then we're going to be sensitive to that.
Yeah, I think if circumstances allow, common sense prevails.
And we are sensitive to that, yes. Yes.
Those of us that have been around the block a few times, we hope.
Cool. Those are all my questions.
Okay.
Further questions or comments for Associate Superintendent Harrison?
Can I add one more thing that I really think is important, that these plans are not set. We work on these plans every year, all year long, making sure they're
Living documents.
a living document, and they are exactly what we need to protect the safety of our kids and our staff at our schools. So, okay.
Like I said, on the whole, these comments and questions almost seem too minor to state, but in the case of the board employing, I thought, well.
That's our job, to go over this stuff. I appreciate you catching those things.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Item B, SARB presentation on next steps, county referral citation. Staff report?
So I'm here to talk to you about the SARB process and what we do in our district to handle those cases at our schools. I want to run down the process that the school takes, and then the process when it gets to the SARB process coming to the district, and then further on from there. So attendance process leading to SARB is Education Code 48263, and this is the process at the high school. Just so you're aware, we've done a full SARB hearing and process for the high school. They have the largest volume, and this school district hasn't technically had a SARB process in the past, so we're mastering our process with the high school, in partnership with the high school. So their process starts with 2 phone calls go to parents of students who receive an unexcused absence. So that's the first unexcused. Then emails go out daily to notify parents of any unexcused absences, along with the consequences for those unexcused absences. After 3 full days or 18 periods of unexcused absence, the first SARB letter goes out to parents, notifying them you have this many unexcused absences or equivalent period unexcused absences. At that point, once that letter goes out, that triggers counselor intervention at the high school. Counselors meet with the students, say, hey, you can't have unexcused absences, you got to be at school to learn. That's why we do this. We have compulsory education and you have to be at school. After 6 full days or 36 periods of unexcused absences, a second SARB letter is sent home requesting a meeting with the student, parent, and the administration. And at this meeting, the student is placed on an attendance contract, and next steps are explained to the parent and the student, meaning whether the consequences moving forward if you continue to not come to school and have unexcused absences at school. After 9 full days or 54 periods of unexcused absence, the third SARB letter is sent home with a request to meet with the SARB team. So that's when it kicks into the district level of having a SARB hearing. Now, throughout the whole process, emails and phone calls are sent out by the school site, sent home by the school site. We had a set of SARB hearings in February. I think we had 10 SARB hearings for 10 families. At the SARB hearing, families were given directives on school attendance. We reviewed the ed code. We reminded them of compulsory education, defined what an unexcused and excused absence is, how you excuse absences, all those processes that the school has already reviewed with parents.
May I interrupt? Who do
Yes.
you have at that meeting with the parents?
That meeting is our SRD, our Director of Special Education, myself, the administrator. In this case, it was the high school administrators, both the assistant principals. And then we have another administrator that's a third-party administrator, and that's everybody.
Okay, so we don't have like any county services available to us. When I did this in a previous district, we had people from the county in, but it was a more urban area. It was much easier to get folks in.
We do not have people from the county attending the meeting, yeah. And then obviously the parents and the student.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although we do have no-shows, and we go through the process anyway when there are no-shows. So the next steps are the families were informed at that meeting, and they signed a contract if they were in attendance, of the consequences for further truancy, which include referral to law enforcement and/or involuntary placement to the county alternative program. Now, these actions are after the students have been given 3 letters, 3 chances, so that's the 4th. So what we do is see if their behavior changes. Did they remedy behavior because of this SARB meeting? And if that behavior has not remedied, then we're moving to referral to a county program. And the duration of that referral to the county program is 1 semester. So the students that we SARBed in the spring are receiving those letters next week for enrollment in a county program, which they will attend in good faith, with good attendance, getting credits, getting good grades through the fall semester, in which time they can come back to our system, to our school, in the spring and re-enroll and have great attendance. Currently, we have 5 students that have not remedied behavior that we are referring to the county program to remediate behavior. So that's where we are currently.
Will it?
We want a guarantee on that, by the way.
You know what? In some cases, it does. In some cases, families find a different way, a different method of learning for the kids because going to school every day just doesn't work for them. And the county has a multitude of programs that can help with that. So sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Where is this county program located?
It depends on the program that they are assigned to. I believe the one program has a satellite school in Tracy.
Yes.
So that would be our closest
Okay.
program.
And are we responsible for providing transportation for them?
No, we are not.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah. Okay. Any question? More question?
Further questions or comments by the board?
So have we not had any need for any SARB processes at any of the elementary schools?
We have 3 students currently at the elementary schools that we need to go through the SARB process. We haven't gotten to it yet. We're still, making our process better, but we will continue. And that I'm putting together a standardized process, a SARB process that we're going to use as a district moving forward, so that we have a set. This is the date. This is when you send people, and we'll probably do high school and K separately, just because the volume of high school is very different.
Right. One of the things I've been filling in as principal at one of our schools at work, and every time I show up there, they're having truancy meetings with parents, and that's one-on-one with the principal. It's one of those intermediary steps, but most often, I think I've had 9 of them scheduled in the time that I've been covering the school. 1 parent showed up.
Yeah.
So But it's a good step. They have everything in writing. It's sent out in the mail and
Yes. And I do need
attempt.
I need to compliment the high school. They've really gone over and above documenting and making sure that we communicate both by certified mail, by mail, and we're actually going to be delivering by hand some of these documents so that we can make sure that the families have word. So.
For the elementary students, are they going to be attending an alternate placement as well?
Those are not always available.
Yeah, that was my question. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So we're going to have to figure out an alternative to that. Well,
Okay. An alternative to the
alternative to the
Yeah,
alternative.
an alternative to the
alternative.
alternative.
Alternative placement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was my
Okay.
other question.
All right. That it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item C, District Advisory Committee meeting timeline, special board meeting. Staff report?
So the past 2 years, we've scheduled a special board meeting before the second board meeting in June it gives Alvina and her team a little bit more time to work on the budget. In this same meeting, we run the LCAP public hearing. So the date for that is June 18th, Monday, June 18th, and we have a board meeting June 20th on Wednesday. So we wanted to let the board know that date. And also, Trustee Clements had talked about the DAC meeting. I believe, and we'll verify this, but I believe we're on Monday, June 4th, we are going to have a DAC meeting where we kind of go through the annual renewal like we do annually, and then that will kick in the hearing, which will kick in the LCAP approval process. But I'll confirm those dates with Mr. Harrison. But the key one is, and set in stone, is June 18, special board meeting. It was not a long one.
Is that standard time, 7 p.m.?
I thought we did it earlier last
Yeah,
time.
yeah. We do it earlier. It's just harder for me,
Yeah.
but I can make it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm good.
So the time on it is?
6:30.
6:30.
Okay. Got it.
All right, thank you. Item D, district standard for makerspace development for elementary school sites. Staff report?
So Assistant Superintendent Sherburne is going to give a short presentation on what we've learned about makerspace and our plans to move it across the district.
So as you heard from, thank you, good evening again. As you heard from Principal Buzatil and all our experimentation through the Infinity Lab there, and certainly Lila has become much more than the Infinity Lab, but we have been investigating this makerspace. We've also been doing background investigation work with the LUSD Tech Policy Committee and witnessed the county's Fab Lab that they have as their makerspace out there. And we're at the point where we would like to recommend moving towards makerspaces and converting the computer labs of yesteryear that are at our schools, as new as they are, into 21st century makerspaces. So this is the vision that we are framing the development of the makerspaces under, that we believe in the intellectual value that the use of a makerspace area provides for students with the creativity, innovation, engineering, communication, collaboration, digital production, and computer coding are common investigation and instructional uses of makerspaces that promote the LUSD for 21st century learning that we would like. So, we have gone through a process of looking at various types of equipment, and what we're proposing in the proposal is that we would purchase at the district level several of items of equipment such as the 3D printer, the Rock'em Box, the Makey, you see the bananas there, Lego wall for engineering, the Ozobots on the bottom left corner, and equipment to do green screen filming, broadcasting, if they want to do journalism, Oprah Winfrey style reports, whatever they'd like to do with that to allow them to have the ability to put that in play within that space, similar to what we've done at the Infinity Lab at Lammersville. One of the common things that we know about the space is that it really needs to be flexible space. So this is an example of a space that's out there. What you can see is the use of walls for different aspects of working, as well as tables. So we've really found that the furniture needs to be portable. Having it flexible so it can be folded up and put away, can be reconfigured into multiple spaces. Solid flooring in order to be able to facilitate robotics and engineering projects on a larger scale. They should be inspiring and colorful, all of those types of things. So this is one example. In terms of the implementation, we want to make sure that, similar to what has happened at Lammersville, that we allow the staff at each school site to put their own stamp. So we would create a standard of the types of equipment that we would put in, the fact that we would have furniture that's flexible, but it probably looks different because they have different spaces and different desires. We would want to allow them, while we can give them the scope and sequence for instruction as a sample to use, that they have the ability to tweak that and build upon that and make that fit what is going to work for their school site. So the district will get the networking set up, get the interactive projector going, make sure we have the laptops in there and the equipment that would support all of the instruction that goes in there and the investigation. And the site would be responsible for actually implementing it. They'd set up the room in the configuration that they want. They determine their own scope and sequence. They would schedule that space, whether it's part of electives, how much time is open during recess or not, when they schedule their classes in and what that looks like. All of those things, develop that vision. Deborah Ritchie on my staff has her STEM certificate as part of her master's and is passionate about makerspaces, so she supports the training on equipment, those kinds of things, and the staff learning that's going on. And of course, there are things from Project Lead the Way that will also best probably happen as part of those spaces as well. So the picture there of what do you want to make, we very much want to leave the schools in charge at some degree, yet provide a district standard. So that's a sample of the scope and sequence that Lammersville has worked out that the other sites can work from. And what we're looking at in terms of a budget, it would be about $60,000 for each of the 4 sites because Lammersville has already gotten theirs up and running. Hanson would also be getting these things, but it'll be part of the new construction. So this is really for the 4 sites that we have existing. So $240,000 for the furniture and the instructional materials that we've talked about. There is some minor construction in different places and wiring, the solid flooring, those kinds of things. That would take about another $260,000 in total, we approximate, in order to get that all done. Ideally, we can get that done along with the conversion of the 21st century classrooms that are going on at Bethany and Cuesta, that while the guys are there laying the electrical and the cabling for the infrastructure, they can just do those maker spaces at the same time and make sure that it's all good to go, and that saves us some money because we're not bringing them back out for a separate project. Hopefully, we'll have the ability to get some minor construction work like that done, which we know is very challenging right now. However, short of that, we can still do the rest of the conversion and adjust once the construction is able to be completed. So it's just a snapshot of what we're hoping to accomplish at this time. So any questions about this or other things you'd like us to consider?
Another thing that I brought back from the conference that I'm going to give Superintendent Nicholas, some vendors with all of that flexible furniture.
Mm-hmm.
We had fun testing out the furniture.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's so many
I'll
cool
pass that
ideas
along.
now.
Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I'll share
Okay,
that. So
thank you
you'll
very
have it.
much.
Thank you. And I do like the idea of giving the sites buy-in, so to speak, of the spaces, because it makes it their own, and that, I think, is good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to, where are we? I'm lost. E. Classified
Yeah.
Employee of the Year Award Dinner, Heather Corman. Staff report?
So we just wanted to formally invite the board to attend the celebration of Heather's award, which was classified, County Classified Employee of the Year. But I also have another important announcement. Mr. Faubert, Mr. Harrison, and I had the distinction and the honor to go and present our now County Teacher of the Year, Kristen Olson, with the exciting news that she was just named today. So we will be celebrating both Heather Corman and Kristen Olson that evening, June 7th at 6:30. And Kristen obviously is the biomedical teacher extraordinaire at the high school, so this is in the 9th through 12th grade category.
Who obviously never sleeps, so I can make it to that.
I'll definitely be there.
Yeah.
I will be there as well.
I believe I can be there, so.
To steal Mr. Harrison's line, I'm going to predict you're going to have to make a choice between steak, chicken, and vegetables. So no, I'm not saying that's formal now.
And I'm going to state that you can guess my choice.
I have no idea. Or do I have an idea? That's it.
All right, now F. Discontinuing district end-of-year student recognition. Staff report?
So one of the things about growing is sometimes you outgrow a really cool thing. And we have gotten to the point at the end of the year where we don't think it's feasible anymore to do one comprehensive acknowledgement of students. We ran this idea by the principals and staff, and essentially what it's turned into is a cattle call, rush them in, rush them out, try to take a picture. So it is our recommendation that the school sites acknowledge their kids who have done something special at an end-of-the-year thing, and that it was a great idea when we were smaller, but it's just impossible today.
I would agree.
That is bittersweet.
Yeah.
It really is. But I agree.
I apologize, but I was fumbling with the calendar on my phone, and I did not get the location of the employee award dinner.
It's in there.
Okay.
Twice now turned right to the right page.
Oh, never mind, I can
Way
find
at the
it.
end, yeah.
All right. Calendar.
There you go.
Wednesday, April 11th was the Wellness Committee meeting. Wednesday, May 2nd is the next regular board meeting. Thursday, May 3rd is the DLAC meeting at Lammersville Elementary. Wednesday, May 16th is the Safety Committee meeting at 3:30 here in the district office, I believe. And Thursday, May 17th is the Facilities Committee meeting here in the district office at 6:30.
And I'd like to apologize, I misspoke during my report that we had our last DLAC meeting. We do have one more meeting.
Duly noted. In just a moment, we will be adjourning to closed session where we will discuss public employee discipline dismissal release complaint, conference with labor negotiators, conference with legal counsel, and conference with real property negotiators. Do I have a motion?
I
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We are now adjourned to closed session. Thank you,
All in favor, we didn't vote.
excuse me, all in favor?
Aye.
Now, thank you for attending this evening and have a returning from closed session at 10:15 p.m. Closed session item C, conference with legal counsel. Governing Code Section 54956.9, existing litigation pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Section 54956.9, case number 216-CV-2 02215. The board took action on a motion by trustee Goodrich and seconded by trustee Lampel to approve settlement agreement for case number 216CV02215 by the following vote. 4 ayes and 1 absent. Trustee Lampel, aye. Trustee Pombo, aye. Trustee Clements, aye. Trustee Goodrich, aye. Trustee Balzerini, absent.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned. Thank you.